again, one of the issues with economics and the way we think of economics as a discipline is that we typically just assign this, we make it very narrow. We think of it as, yes, linking to financial markets, linking to forecasting, linking to risk, linking to, what you meant, profits, and that's it. I think that is thinking of economics far too narrowly. Economics has been around for a very long time. It's a discipline that has been constantly evolving. And there are still many evolutions that it will make. I worked on something called the Stone Review back in 2006. And it was a study which was recognized globally, led by Lord Stern, who was at the time the chief economist for the UK Treasury. And he had a team, including myself, and what we worked on was thinking about the issue of climate change, which had previously been thought of just as a scientific phenomenon. And what we did in that review was look at it as an economic phenomenon. And so what we did for the first time was to look at how much does it cost to take action on climate change versus not take action on climate change. We moved it from it's going to cause lots of natural disasters, which we don't see, and we're going to try and do something about, but we don't have to do something about it. We can deal with them when they come along, to something which actually, if we don't do it now, it will cost more. That was the fundamental finding of the review. And by doing that, it created a space for a clearer discussion in negotiations, international negotiations about climate change. I then, for example, led work on the climate finance negotiations. Climate financing was then acknowledged as a real issue in the negotiations, that poor countries need to have extra money in order to help them deal with climate change. That was not fully acknowledged prior to the Stern Review. So it can help us economics can help us to deal with these issues which we might not foresee. We also might, which the current way that economies are structured don't deal with very well. But it also allows us to think of possibilities of structuring societies in a different way, in a way that does deal with these issues. So I think it can be, economics can sometimes be used as a means to narrow our focus, but it can also be used in a really positive way to help us think through really, really difficult issues in a much clearer, consistent way. And I think there are certain really useful examples of that, which have been done. I think the other part of this as well is, and I'll give you another example in my career in development economics. Quite often there's this idea that people who are poor just need to be helped. They make the wrong decisions often, and you might wonder why a poor person might go and buy a TV, or when they can't necessarily put food on the table this week. And those sorts of questions come at us who work in this development sector. And what economics can help us do is to not look at poor people necessarily in a way that kind of situates them as them. We can use economics to understand that they are actually, and understand why they're actually acting very rationally if they make those sorts of decisions. And when they do make those sorts of decisions, then that helps us to design programs or policies at a country level, which can then be more helpful towards poor people than what we might otherwise do. So again, I think there are certain disciplines, certain ways, certain concepts within economics that help us do that. And I think it really is just a case of its use. Typically, we confine ourselves to using too few parts of economics, and we can do much more.